Welcome to the first Indieformer Indie View. We haven't done these in a very long time, and this is a different format. So I'd like to welcome Eldar. He's very graciously come through to do this interview with us to chat about being a dev, Atomic Owl's release, and now publishing as well. So, Eldar, for the people out there, give me a little bit about you and Atomic Owl.
So a little about me. I used to work in game development for about a year before COVID started, and then I'd say about for 3 years after COVID happened. I worked for a mobile game studio called People Fun. They made a pretty popular word game called Wordscapes. I think it topped somewhere around like 90 million like downloads or something like that. The numbers were absolutely crazy. And then COVID happened, and then I went on to do a stint in AAA support at a AAA support studio. I contributed to some of the production behind The Lord of the Rings, Return to Moria, and Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. And then after that, I thought, I'm going to start, well, not after that, I should say. During my stint at this company, I was like, I kind of want to start my own studio and see what that looks like for myself. And Atomic Owl was born. I could talk a lot about what exactly Atomic Owl is, and I think I will get into that momentarily. But for now, I just wanted to make my own indie game studio back in like 2021, and our game just came out about 2 weeks ago, and here I am talking to you, man. I love Indieformer, by the way, dude. So cool what you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for the kind words. I think all those games, most people should have heard of. Wordscapes, I've definitely seen ads for on my phone, or at least remember seeing ads for. So I'm sure that would have been pretty crazy back then. But let's get into Atomic Owl. Like, what is it? Why is it? And let's just tell people what it is right up front.
Atomic Owl was born during the height of my obsession with synthwave and the resurgence of my love of retro games when COVID started. This happened to a lot of people around the time when Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal were like being marketed as like this thing. A lot of people my age, like in their early 30s, kind of like jumped on the nostalgia like train and went back and started playing a lot of games they used to play as a kid. For me, some of those games are a little known Sony published game called Mickey Mania. I went back and played Bubsy. I was just during 2020, 2021, I was just falling in love with all of these games I used to play. And most of them happened to be side scrollers. So what did I mention? I mentioned Mickey Mania, Shinobi, Bubsy, Taz, the Tasmanian Tiger. I was just going back, and then I started playing like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Battletoads. Started playing some that like some beat 'em ups like Streets of Rage, and I was just going through like a renaissance, man. But at the same time, I started playing a lot of indie games like Hollow Knight and Dead Cells and Have a Nice Death and a lot of these roguelites, and I thought, okay, I kind of want to make something that blends that sort of like retro feel of like that brutality of like a Castlevania Symphony of the Night, maybe more of like a Castlevania 3, with something that is like a roguelite, but not something that you have to play for like 40, 50 hours, but a roguelite that was a short experience, a roguelite that you could experience in like 4 to 5 hours. And so in 2021, I got to work on Atomic Owl, which is, as I like to refer to it as a it's a Roguevania. It's an SNES roguelite for the SNES era, or it's for Sega Genesis kids, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, right. So I guess, was there like a point in time where you flipped a switch and were like, I want to create my own thing? Because this is yours, right? Atomic Owl versus Wordscapes, right, or whatever you've worked on. Like, what was the kind of the flip that went, oh, now I want to make my own thing?
I got a lot of creative ideas, and I had a lot of people telling me I couldn't do stuff. So I thought, I'm going to make something where no one can tell me what I could and could not do with a video game. I like swords, and I like anime stuff, and I like anime, and I like bombastic energy in video games, and a lot of the games that I worked on are very muted, and I wasn't able to go that like One Punch Man with it, so I wanted something where I could do that, and I wanted a creative outlet where I could make something that was like really high energy and also retro and classic at the same time. But yeah, I guess it just kind of comes down to that like rebellious nature I've always had since I was a kid. Like, I just want to make my own thing.
Yeah, I think that's the creative in all of us, like not being told what to do. It's my thing. I'm going to do it exactly how I want to do. I relate to that on many levels.
Can I just say there was at People Fun, and I mean I'm the type, I'm gonna go into stuff, right? I'm gonna talk about my experiences in game development. We had a game jam once every, I mean, I think it was like once a month, give or take. We would have a game jams, and you know, out of a studio of 70 people, 30 to 40 people would bring slide decks and present game ideas that could potentially be made into games. Not one was ever made into a game. I'm not joking. No, not a single one. And out of those like 30 or 40, I was one of them. I was putting out these presentations. Nothing ever got made. It was all just puzzle games. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But don't make us feel like, you know, there's, you know, creativity on the table when there's no creativity. We're going to go out and make our own thing, which is what I went and did.
No, yeah, it's very different when you're doing something creative for a bigger company, because their bottom line is to make money, and we're gonna, what does the market want? What are we making? And like, yes, as far as creativity goes, like you want to be creative somewhat in that, but it's still going to be market driven, bottom line driven. What are the costs? What do we have to do? Like there is a lot of business around it. And speaking of that, now that you've kind of run your own game dev project and a team, like, how does that actually happen? Like, it isn't just like, oh, I've made a game and now I'm releasing it. Like, there's a lot of groundwork and a lot of extra things like surrounding it that need to happen.
Yeah.
What does it actually look like to start making a game?
I mean, it really is juggling plates. I mean, at first it's a lot of learning, because, you know, you have what you think is your budget for the game, and, you know, how much money you think you'll need to bring it to market. What you don't know is that you need to multiply that number by 6 or 7 to get to, you know, to get to the finish line, right? So when you release your first game, I mean, now that it's done, patches aside, of course, I'm just walking around my house like thinking like, oh man, okay, yeah, that was a learning moment. That was a learning moment. That was way more expensive than I thought it would be. I imagine it's like building a house. You know, you think maybe it'll be like $100,000, but it's like it's going to be like a $500,000, you know, investment to really get it off the ground. I mean, you could get it off the ground with like a really small amount of money if you wanted to cut corners, but I wanted to see I didn't want any compromises to Atomic Isle. Atomic Isle is in its current state exactly what I wanted when I set out to make the game back in 2021. There were, of course, you know, like you cut a little bit of scope, but nothing that compromised the creative vision. But more so to answer your question, I think, you know, at first you're kind of just like walking through fire. You're just like, this is $800. This person doesn't actually know how to do this code thing. That's a learning moment for me. I got to interview better. Okay, now I got to figure out how. There's so much learning when it comes to like figuring out different store platforms like Steamworks or GOG. Like that's a whole other thing. I also had to learn how to use Unity, which is a whole game engine, right? So it's just a lot of 16-hour days. But at the end of the day, you're just learning so much that it becomes addicting. And you get better and better at learning, which, you know, is what all the rich people say, is like, you got to be really good at learning. And so you develop that skill. You're just developing skills this whole time until you finally press that go button and your game is out there. And that's when the anxieties really start happening. So,
yeah. Okay. So I guess before we get to like clicking go on the game, what are some of the like unsexy bits of game development, like starting a company, banking, having no publisher, like when you are in the thick of it? Like we were talking earlier, back in January, you had some thoughts about whether the Kickstarter was going to go well, whether you were going to actually make it to launch. Like, what is going through your head in development?
Yeah, I mean, development would be so much smoother if you didn't have to worry about the financial side of things, right? I mean, I start off making Atomic Isle with a nest egg, but that nest egg was burned through pretty quickly because of just the relative scope of how much it costs to make a game that I wasn't aware of, right? And so I had to pivot. I thought, okay, well, I need money, so I went to Kickstarter. We put together a remarkable Kickstarter campaign with the help of a lot of really talented people, and we were able to raise $56,000, and it was wonderful. And that had certainly helped. We were able to get some grants from OTK. We were able to you know, just get funding from a lot of small different places. And that takes up such a big amount of the pie chart that really, like, I had to remember to also find time to be creative. Like I had to, while I was looking for cash flow for the studio, I also have to take time to do non-sexy financial things like make a story, make characters, make it mean something, right? Design a game, design power-ups, design platforms. So you really are like, it's really like game development. If you're doing it by yourself, or if you're running a studio and you're managing people, you really are using the left and the right side of your brain.
Yeah. Is there anything that kind of sticks out to mind that you didn't know? Like, yes, you had game dev experience, you've worked on bigger games, you kind of know, I guess, larger processes or macro processes. But is there anything that kind of caught you by surprise during this? Like, oh, I didn't even think about this during that ideation of Atomic Owl.
At the beginning, sure. Like, I mean, on the business side of things, like just owning a business in the United States costs money, more than you would think. The IRS and the Department of Business will basically just email you saying like, $300, please. And you're like, I didn't account for that. I didn't know. And so these are learning moments as well. Like if you have an LLC, you have to file a mutual beneficiary report every single quarter. And sometimes that price is not always the same. Sometimes for me, it was 180. Sometimes it was a random $360. So just owning a business, even though it sounds like, of course, that makes sense. Just the fact that the business exists is going to cost you money out of your pocket. You have to file it. You have to pay taxes on it. For us, the taxes were less because we weren't selling a product yet. Now we are starting to sell a product and we're starting to make revenue on the game. But that's the other thing, right? Really, without a game on the market, especially if you're a first-time studio, you're not making any money. Like you're making $0. You're pulling in money and you're sending money out, but you're not actually bringing in any revenue. And then Steamworks is a whole spider web of stuff you have to learn. I mean, it's a little bit closer to launch, but putting out a build to Steam early is something that I think every developer should do, because Steam has a long review process for just about everything. You have to be really early for everything. Game development is a disaster for procrastinators in so many different ways.
I mean, as are most creative projects, to be honest. Like, if you are going to procrastinate, you're never going to get to that creative finish. And that's the one thing that creativity relies on. It's the effort putting in to not stop, because it's not going to go by itself. It needs active energy put in. I think I just wanted to touch on the Kickstarter quickly.
Sure.
People that haven't kind of run a Kickstarter campaign before, what are there costs involved? Did you pay someone to help you? Did you do it all by yourself? Like, again, very game development. Like, is it just do everything by yourself, or do you get help, or what was your?
The idea for the Kickstarter came from me, but we worked with, and I hope you can tag him here. I can send you his information. We worked with Sam from Indieformer, which is similar to one of the programs that you do at Indieformer.
I chatted to him before, yeah.
That's him. Yeah, exactly. He was instrumental in Atomic Owl being a Kickstarter success. He helped us find partnerships with BackerKit, which was a company that helped us with advertisements and getting the game out to more people. There's really two things that I always like to touch on when people ask me about, like, hey, what's it like being a Kickstarter, or like what is the likelihood of my game or project becoming a Kickstarter success? And for that, I always say you need to launch with a certain amount of followers, which shouldn't be less than 500, and you need to have money prepped to put into ads, basically, if you don't already have a community. I think a lot of people think, oh, I can't build a community from Kickstarter. I think absolutely you can. Like, we were able to do that. We built a community from scratch with our Kickstarter backers. But to find those Kickstarter backers in the first place, it's not just pressing go on Kickstarter.com. It is for months cultivating that list of followers so that when you do press go, people are there and waiting. So
it's all of the work behind the work.
Everything is prep. Yeah. Everything is prep with games. I mean, I think I'm not much of a procrastinator. I like doing things early and on time, but that is one thing I discovered. I was like, oh, well, thank God I'm wired this way, because if I wasn't, I would be in trouble.
Yeah, fair. No, it's good to kind of peel the curtains back and also just know that there's always work before the actual work begins. And that's kind of just how it always starts, especially when you're up to release of a game. There's all the work that's gone on, but you've also done pre-work for now post-game for what are we updating, how long are we going to update for, and marketing past that. So I guess my next question kind of goes into what the making of looks like, skills, scope. You kind of touched on it before about budget and then that kind of exploding. What were the differences between what you thought you needed to do for the game versus the reality? And I'm just talking like skills of just game dev development?
It was a little overwhelming. I had a bit of experience with Unity working at PeopleFund, but not anything on the level of like creating like a state system or animation or anything like that. It was more so. For a little bit of background context, I started at PeopleFund. Well, actually, my career actually started as a playtester for Borderlands 3, and then I took that experience and I went to work at PeopleFund as a QA tester. And then after about 6 months there, my manager at the time recommended that I go work in production, just because I had this sort of natural, I had this natural love of leading teams, and I couldn't help it. That was just kind of coming out in my QA work, and so I went on to do production for Wordscapes. And I thought, okay, well, if I do have one skill, especially after about a year working in production on Wordscapes, if I do have one skill, it is understanding the symphony of how game development works, understanding the pipeline for how art bakes in with code and how bugs can be made and how bugs can emerge from implementation of different bits of code and different bits of art and different bits of animation and different bits of just how playtesting emerges from that. And so I thought, okay, this is my skill, but what I do need to do is enhance my code knowledge a little bit. I knew a little bit of C# going into this, but I knew that to make Atomic Owl, I had to learn a lot more. But I'm also not an artist. Like, I can draw, but I'm not an artist. So I had to hire artists and understand that even though I'm not an artist, I'm not an animator, I had to very quickly understand in the scope of like 2 years how they work, their speeds, the tools that they need in Unity, what they need to pump out, right? So I just kind of had to understand what everyone was doing. And so like the tools of my trade are stuff like Jira, Confluence, Asana. They're like program management, product management tools that I had to become really familiar with. And after about 6 years of using those, I think that's like the main tool that I know how to use. And so later on, I think in the interview, you're going to ask me, what's the best like $200 spend of all time? And I think that's honestly getting like the Confluent, like that Atlassian Pro, just to make sure that everything your team is doing, I think is incredibly important. But really, there's just such a wide amount of learning to make a game that is impossible to be surprised at one thing, because it's all quite overwhelming. You really just have to be in the right mindset and understand that the next 2 years of your life are just it's like being back at uni, really.
Yeah. So I guess a couple of questions from there. Like, so assuming it took you 2 years to make Atomic Owl from kind of start to finish,
I say like almost three.
And
that first 6 months really is, you're just kind of, the first 6 months are a wash, dude.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like anything. You're kind of figuring it out to know whether that's the right direction. You have to split off a little bit and do something else. And you're the lead programmer or the creative director. Like, what is your,
I take more of a creative director role.
Yeah. Okay. So you've had other people kind of do the bulk of the coding.
I'd say so. Yeah. Definitely. Although, and I guess in like the 10 seconds since I answered that, I guess it is more of a creative director, but it's also very heavily producer, just since I am guiding every single task and ticket at the in the studio for the game.
Yes, you're the vision holder. It's
sure.
Guys, it's what we're going for. You do this, you do that. Like, you're the source of truth. Call it that.
But very much also, and I hate this term, but it's the best one I got right now. Very much boots on the ground.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're not just like fly on the wall, like, just do this, do that. You're like, you're in with the team. You're part of the team, but also the person who's got the vision. No, that's what I assumed. And then I guess also having listened to you speak about all of these different people involved and all these different skills, what did Atomic Owl cost to make?
Atomic Owl, without any sort of fluffing of the numbers, I would say cost about $135,000 to make.
US.
Yes, about $135,000 to make. And originally, I thought it was going to make. Originally, I thought it was going to cost $40,000. And like I mentioned earlier, I think earlier I embellished a little bit. I said it was going to be like a 6 to 7 times increase. It was like a 4 to 5 times increase, actually.
And in that difference, what was the main difference that you kind of under budgeted for? Or was it across the board you just under budgeted?
across the board I just under, but well, I did under budget, but at the whenever I first scoped out the game, it was smaller in scope, right? We didn't have for those of you that have actually played the game, we didn't have any of the virtual nests. We only had one weapon. We only had one sword. It was going to be very shinobi-like in style. We have 4 weapons now. Our roguelite structure hasn't really changed, but we also didn't even have like a main like place to go back to whenever you die in the game, right? So over time, that 40,000 did sort of just like become, a lot larger in scope as well. And then, like you just like sort of like the rigors of hiring, right? You hire people that are really solid, and then they go to either like work somewhere else or go to university or they move. I don't have the same people. I mean, I would say half the team when I first started the project as I do now, and the others, either they, quit or, they went to go back to school or for a variety of reasons, just sort of like the natural cadence of being a studio owner. People come and people go. So that, every time someone leaves, that slows down like that pipeline. If they were, a really good engineer, that slows down their work. You have to find somebody else. Hiring takes about a month and a half, I would say, to find the right person. So
yep.
There's a lot of little things.
Yeah, I mean, like $135,000 is no small amount of change, especially when you're putting it into a game. You're going to hope that you come out the other side of that making more. And like, as you were saying before, money's going out, money's coming in, but you're not really making much, especially when you're talking about numbers that big. So I guess the next logical question is, how much has Atomic Owl been able to bring back for you since
right now?
Launching?
There a few thoughts have branched out from that. One, if I could do things a little bit differently, I think that making a single player side scroller, I definitely cut myself at the heel a little bit when it comes to the ability for the game to make money. It's really hard to put a game like that into early access when it's single player, right? And so it was something that genuinely could not make money until it was done. And I knew, I was like, oh my God, this is going to take like 2.5 years. Obviously I didn't account for how much it was going to cost. But back to your original question, it has made, so it's sold roughly like 1,000 copies. It's sold maybe like 1,100 up to now. I would say it's made, if you were to take away Steam's percentage, we're probably sitting at somewhere around like $13,000. We're probably sitting at somewhere about $13,000. The tricky thing about our game is that I'll be really forthcoming about this. I actually priced it too high. I priced it at $20, and it wasn't until after you shoot your shot, right? I was like, okay, I think this is a $20 game, right? But obviously there's emotion and there's bias in that. What I thought was a $20 game, I think the market thinks is more of a $12 to $14 game, right? So I don't think the sales potential of the game is there until we reduce costs to about that $12 to $14 range. The data on Steamworks right now for me is showing that while we had a conversion, we had a pretty average conversion of our wish lists of about 4%. Anything above 5% is considered really top notch, and anything above 10 is considered like really great Vampire Survivors, blah, blah, blah. And I think once we hit that $12 to $14 range, we'll start seeing conversions, we'll start seeing more players. And then pretty soon we're going into console, right? So we're launching on Xbox, we're launching on PlayStation, and we're launching on Nintendo Switch. Not to mention GOG, Green Man Gaming, and I am looking at Epic Game Store, right? So pretty soon I'm setting it up so that eventually we do recoup our cost of that, like 100, what did I say, 130, 140, something like that?
Yeah, 135.
135, yeah.
Yeah, well, so I mean, that's the reality. Like, you put it all in, you shoot your shot, and if it doesn't land, so be it. But the important thing is that it's not just shoot your shot and, oh, well, it's like load another one, try again, right? So it sounds like you've got all these other platforms lined up. You're going to give it the best shot it can. And I guess that kind of leads into what we're going to talk about next, which was the post-game reality. Like, given that the game hasn't recouped what you put into it, is the goal to keep working on the game until it does, or does it have a lifespan? Is it only got a few updates left in it? Does it have expansions to come, DLCs? Not like I'm asking for you to share what you don't want to share, but what is the lifespan of Atomic Owl?
I think I had my expectations pretty in check even back in 2021, 2022. I wanted to put out a product that you could play in about 5 to 6, maybe 7 hours, depending on your level of skill, because it is a challenging side scroller type of game. We've seen people beat the game in 2 hours or 3 hours, and we've balanced accordingly to make it that it is a little bit more challenging. So we're starting to see streamers that play through the game around that 4 to 6 hour range. But while we aren't necessarily expanding it with more content, we are quickly patching, and we are going to be looking at marketing the game for roughly about a year and a half after this, because we still have so many platforms and so many people to reach, right? I mean, with Steam, we've reached 1,000 people. We want to reach 100,000 people across all platforms. So that is a year and a half marketing support, right? And I think that whenever we see the game on 6 to 7 different marketplaces, including console, of course, I think it will find its audience, especially now that, not for nothing, that $19.99 launch price is was sort of a test bed, right? Is this game $20? Steam says no. Steam says maybe this is more of a $12.99. Maybe this is more of a $15 game, right? And so now we have that knowledge. We can take that to Xbox, we can take that to PlayStation, and we can launch a $12.99 on PlayStation. Maybe make another. We'll see how it goes, right? I've never launched a game on consoles. That is a whole learning experience for me. So,
I mean, lack of knowledge, experience, you can't change the price once you've launched on Steam. That's the price.
That's economics right there. So Steam does lock the price for 30 days, but also if we want to do right by our current customers, right? If they bought it for $20 and we're like, hey, no, it's $10 now, we are not doing right by those 1,000 people, right? Even if it's at the cost of maybe 2,000, 3,000 more people, betraying that initial customer base and saying like, hey, thanks for buying it at $20, but a month later, it's $10. Sorry, that's not cool with me, right? So I want to wait a little bit. I want to do right by the people who have supported us early on.
On, I guess, keeping the reality alive, the marketing for another year and a half is also costs. So that 135 also continues to increase as the sales increase. So those numbers kind of continue to move. And look, it depends how viral you go, how big it gets, how many sales you make. But those numbers still do move. It's not just made the game, spent the money, now recoup it all. It's still spend to make after you've released.
That's very true. I mean, we do plan on running advertisements on the game, just like every other publisher does in the world, right? And so, yeah, naturally, that's going to be a little bit of a cost, not anywhere near the cost of active development for 6 to 7 developers, but it is still going to be a cost.
And I guess just on what you said there, you didn't have a publisher, or you did, but kind of didn't, or didn't mostly.
We have a publisher that so Atomic Owl is published by East Asia Soft. They're going to be helping us bring the game to console. But Atomic Owl was not funded by East Asia Soft. They are primarily a porting publisher for us.
Okay, so they were there to help with the stuff that you didn't or don't know how to do.
They helped us with initial PR for Atomic Owl. But the bulk of our agreement is basically activating now as we start to port the game to Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo consoles.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But as far as traditional publisher goes, you haven't had that big PR push, that big publisher behind you to go, this is what we represent, this is what we push. It's kind of essentially being self-marketed.
195%, absolutely. We did not have that Blueprints Raw Fury partnership.
Yeah, I mean, I guess speaking from your perspective, is this sustainable for you? Like, what does making, like, do you work full time in your studio from grants and stuff you've got? Like, how do you make this sustainable for you, given that you still got this gap of investment versus income? How do you make that sustainable for the next year and a half?
Oh, well, I guess what I haven't mentioned is, on the side, I do client work for indie games. One that I'm working for right now. Some of your audience might know, and if you don't know, I'd love to put you on it. It's a little game called Mr. Sleepy Man, and it's a 3D platformer that has gone pretty viral on TikTok and is coming out in likely 2025, maybe the beginning of 2026. So that's my current marketing client on this, on the side. Maybe I'll pick up another one now that I don't have development to really work on. But I think that between I think between that client, between Atomic Owl, and between the not yet to be mentioned Dark Queen of Morthome, I think that I should have, I'm feeling pretty good about developing game number 3.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, I guess sustainability was more how are you keeping yourself alive or the team alive whilst you get working on this stuff. Like, you don't work full time at the moment?
Full time, no, I don't work full time at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it feels like it, especially with launching 2 games in the same calendar month. It does feel like I'm working full time. But
I probably shouldn't mention like that. Like, we can all work full time and not make any money from it. But I mean, like, you don't have a full time wage coming from someone else.
Correct. No. I'm honestly trying to lean away from that a little bit. I haven't, as a studio founder, I'm a square peg, dude.
Like, Matt, you and me both. I don't believe in full time. I think it's like, do what you got to do to get the job done and enjoy life.
I agree. I totally agree. Now, does that philosophy lend itself well in America? Not so much.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends whether you've got America working for you or just people. So
I agree.
So yeah, just to talk on the Dark Queen, you're moving into a bit of a pivot with publishing because you saw this game that you really liked, helping them out. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've wanted to get into publishing for a while, and I was looking for the right game. I've had a few different conversations with indie game developers, not anything that really worked out, until I saw the Dark Queen of Morthome just randomly as a YouTube video come across my feed. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to go play this. Type into Steam. Didn't find it on Steam. I was like, okay, what? Oh, it's only on itch. Oh, okay. I'm going to reach out to the developer and see what's going on. Why is this game not on Steam? Why is this game not on console? Why is this game not on GOG, Epic Games, or whatever? Because it's obviously this is a popular thing people love. This video has 1.5 million views. What's going on? I reached out. We just had an amazing chat, and I told them, hey, I'm looking to go into publishing. While I've never done it before, do you want to take a chance on Monster Theater? We would love to take the tools and the resources that we have on the engineering side and port your game to Steam. Give it the full Steam spitshine, give it the Steam achievements, give it the Steam controller input, Steam input API, give it the languages, give it the Steam cloud save, and let's see, then we can work on your next game together, right? But let's give this a try. Like, we just had a wonderful little conversation and we really vibed. And they thought, let's make Monster Theater the home of the Dark Queen of Morthome. And that comes out, I mean, by the time this is out, this particular video, the Dark Queen would have come out. We are currently sitting at about 85,000 wish lists, and we have really high expectations for this launch.
Yeah, wow. I guess it's nice to hear of how a publisher is beginning. It's not about, hey, we'll pay you this much to make the game and we'll take X percentage. It's like, well, I saw something great. I'm offering to help in a different way that I couldn't otherwise, and let's see what happens. And then it's just always to take a chance, and
it all stemmed from one really good conversation.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's what most good things kind of stem from, to be honest. And there's always concrete value just beyond publishing money or behind marketing or beyond whatever. There's like you just said, we've got this infrastructure and these resources that we can offer as a publisher to help you. Just like you're using East Asia Soft to publish to consoles, you're in a very similar position for Dark Queen.
It's all collaborative. And Moshu, the developer of the Dark Queen, was so hyper-focused on developing their next game, which looks incredible, that they were just creatively done with the Dark Queen. And I thought, okay, I'm not creatively. I obviously I can assist you however you want, right? And so it was really just the right place, right time situation. It was really nice.
Yeah, nice. I'm excited to see how that goes. And I'm sure I would have reported on it at least in some fashion before this video comes out.
I think so.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap up here, because we've been chatting for a bit, I just wanted to kind of close with a bit of a lightning round, just to kind of ping through some things that people might find interesting, and for what you're learning and what you've learned. So to start up, we've got tools that you can't ship without.
For me personally, and my skill set, I think it's impossible to ship without two things. One, Confluence and Jira Pro, which is a boring answer, but I'd love to put you guys onto a little program called Buffer, which allows you to, it gives you a lot of flexibility with scheduling social media posts. And as the primary marketer for Monster Theater, pretty much the only marketer for Monster Theater, having something where I can spend $15 a month and have one little page with my Threads account, with my X, with my Blue Sky, with my TikTok, and just schedule things for like a month in advance. They could charge me $200 a month. I'd pay that.
Yeah, I also use Buffer. It's great.
You use Buffer too?
Yeah, I use, it just makes things so simple. You copy paste, you do it on all the platforms. It just saves
you got the pro account. You better have the pro account.
No, I do. I use it for Threads, X, and Blue
cool.
Sky, and it just makes life so much easier. It's like my audience is split, it's diversified, and just to say the same thing across all of it, that just does it so much easier for you. So I would absolutely recommend that.
Let me throw you a question. You don't have to put this in here. Threads is nice, right? Threads is really growing, I think. And I think it really has potential that Blue Sky might not. I don't know. What do you think?
I did a thread the other day. I think it's the best of all three at the moment, to be honest. It's like it's got a clean UI. It makes me feel like I could keep scrolling for ages. It doesn't overwhelm me even when it's got video. I don't know. Blue Sky seems really like, maybe it's the algorithm, but Blue Sky, like I find it really hard to scroll for too long. There's just so much happening. And then X, I scroll for a little bit, but it almost seems like there's too much and not enough at the same time. I don't know. It's like Threads has got a good balance at the moment. So I think Threads is my most enjoyable one to use at the moment anyway.
Yeah, it really does seem honed in on like what I actually care about rather than what they want me to care about.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
I mean, you can complain about whatever you want because it's meta or whatever, but as a platform, I have good interactions. I see good things. I have no complaints about it.
It's really nice. Cool.
So next one, best sub $200 spend.
Best sub $200 spend. Is it a cop-out if I sort of say a few games that I bought that helped me with the development of the game and like learning kind of like what? Okay, so if I were to make a list of all of the games that I bought in research for Atomic Owl, the first, I guess, 5 that come to mind are Katana Zero, Dead Cells, Have a Nice Death, a little game called Steel Assault, which for those of you who have not played that game is like an hour and 15 minutes long. It's made by Tribute. It's like the coolest like side scroller ever, but no one's ever heard of it or played it. It's really cool. And I would say maybe something like Blade Chimera, which just came out. I think you maybe featured that one. That's not up to $200, but the best money investment besides Jira, besides Buffer, whatever, is buying indie games, learning what people like from them, and not stealing ideas, but being like, hey, people like this. People enjoy what this game is doing. What's the spirit behind this? What is the essence behind what people enjoy about this? Is it the fidelity of the movement? Is it how crunchy the attack is? Let me see if I can bring that into my game, right? So at the end of the day, the best $200 resource that you can buy is researching what other games are doing right and borrowing from it.
Yeah, I think that's an important one. Market research. What does the market have? What does the market like? What is that market doing well that we can kind of take inspiration from? That's a good spend of money.
Now, I've seen reviews. Some people don't like the roguelite element of Atomic Owl, but I challenge people, instead of looking at it from just like a basic roguelite perspective, is it a roguelite or is it more of like that SNES Sega Genesis experience where you're starting over from the beginning of the game, you have 3 lives, and eventually you can beat that entire game with just those 3 lives. I challenge you. Think of it that way. Less of like a Dead Cells roguelite. Think of it more of like a classic 90s experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have gotten into that roguelike progression as well. It's almost like a soft reset. But if you've got a very specific goal that you're going for, like starting at the start of the game, that's the game, guys. Like, you can complain and say you don't like it, but that was the point of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a surprise.
I had a review basically sink their teeth into that methodology that I was going for, and it felt great to see them like understand that I was going for that like 1995 experience with a little bit of a modern twist.
And there you go. That's your audience. That's who you find, and it's niche and it's hard to find, but there's people out there.
I agree.
The third one, an admin trap that you'll never fall for again.
Yeah, I have just the one for this. I spent way too much time replying to people in my emails that were Steam curators. You might have heard about this. People will not impersonate, but they will say, "Hey, I will, review your game on this website. I'll review your game as a Steam curator." And really, they're just looking for free codes. And I honestly just spent a little bit too much time leading up to release giving out free codes to people.
Fair enough.
And,
No, the time suck and the money suck.
A little bit of a money suck. And, don't send your game out too early. A little bit of a learning lesson that I made was I sent the game out with some bugs, thinking that reviewers would play my game with kitty gloves. They don't play your game with kitty gloves. Send the game out when it's done.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. And the last one I've got here, just a sentence on what indie means to you.
An indie game is an indie game is a video game that has a small scope, small team, and a small budget. Whatever that looks like, go for it. Ownership does not matter to me. If it's owned and the team is still small, the budget is still small, the scope is still small, it's not AAA, it's indie. That's my feeling on it. That's what I think.
Great. Well, Eldar, thank you very much. That was a great chat. And thank you for pulling back the curtains a little bit there. And actually mentioning some numbers. I feel like money chat's a little bit like always people are a bit off of that. So I appreciate you being open about it. Is there anything you wanted to add in there before we sign off?
Play Atomic Owl. We're going to be participating in some pretty cool events, and follow Monster Theater on our various social media platforms. And I want to thank you personally for creating Indieformer. I caught wind of it like 4 months ago. We did a little interview via one of the issues. I forgot which one it was. Maybe issue. Oh God, was it?
I think it was January. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I got my time a little bit wrong. So yeah, 7-8 months ago, I got wind of it, and yeah, I think you're doing something really cool, and it's how I found out about like really good indie games now. So thank you.
Great, thank you. For everyone watching, you know where to find Eldar. There'll be links below, and I'm looking forward to doing another one of these with whoever is next.
Thanks, guys.